Hello. Good morning to those joining us from North America, and good afternoon to everyone connecting from Europe. Welcome, everyone, and we will give just a minute for people to join and get settled. My name is Gabriela Rogowska, and I'm a Communication Dissemination and Outreach Specialist at Trust IT Services. Trust IT Services is a communication partner of the INSTAR project. So before we begin, just a few quick housekeeping notes. So this webinar is being recorded. We will be using the Q&A function for the questions, so feel free to submit your questions at any time. And please do not use the chat to introduce yourself, and the Q&A function only for the questions. If you prefer not to appear on the recording, please keep your camera off and consider anonymizing your display name. So as many of you know, the INSTAR project is an EU-funded project working to strengthen the Europe's strategic role in the international ICT standardization. We aim to promote European values and interest in key emerging technologies such as AI, cybersecurity, data, IoT, edge, 5G and 6G, quantum technologies, and data infrastructures. We do this by building collaborations with partners in Australia, Canada, Japan, Singapore, South Korea, Taiwan, and the United States. And just this week, the INSTAR team participated in the Global ICT Standards Conference in Seoul, where we continue to deepen cooperation with the Telecommunications Technology Association of Korea, and also signed a memorandum of understanding with Telecommunication Technology Committee of Japan. And today we are pleased to continue this dialogue with one of the world's most influential standardization communities, the IEEE, and in particular IEEE Communications Society. And it's my honor to introduce our speaker, Professor Mehmet Ulema. Professor Ulema has been actively involved in telecommunications standardization across ITU, TII, IEEE, and currently leads the IEEE Communications Society Standards Development Board in particular, as well as the Communications Society Standards Committee on Network Softwarization and Virtualization. He has authored numerous publications and a book that is quite widely known on public safety networks. And today, Professor Ulema will introduce us to IEEE Communications Society Standardization Activities, explain how the standards development process is structured, and highlight how individuals and organizations, including those in Europe, can contribute, propose, or collaborate with the IEEE standards. So, Professor Ulema, thank you very much for being with us today, and the floor is yours.
So thank you, Gabriela. Thank you for the introduction, and hello, everyone. So before we start, really, I would like to briefly talk about why standards are important, who needs them, and who participates in putting together. Next slide, please. So So who needs standards anyway, right? Well, I mean, there are several category of players in this area. The governments need standards because they want to engage in international markets, government, right? According to ANSI, American National Standard Institute, as you can see at the bottom of the screen, 93% of global exports rely on standards. This is a huge number, a huge reliance on standard, right? Industry needs standard because in order to be strong leaders in the market, they must provide products, interoperable products and services. You know, actual standards make everyday life work. You know, we use Wi-Fi, we use 5G. Uh, well, we use light bulbs because the sockets are standardized and so on. And also research communities need standards because they want to establish a common framework for technology for further research. So the question is, who are these people who participate in developing standards, and why do they do that? Well, I mean, I'll just name a few. R&D organizations contribute to standards because they want to position their intellectual property rights in the standards. Technology suppliers and industrial suppliers contribute to standard because they want to position their technical solutions in the standards so that they can have early market presence, right? Uh, so the SDOs like IEEE would like to participate in standard because they want to serve their volunteers, their members. Uh, Researchers participate in the standards because you know some research grants that they get, funding they get, may have a standardization component. Also, they want to position their work, their you know the innovations and creations, whatever, in high impact activities like you know standardizations, right? With that prelude, I guess we can talk about what I'm going to talk about. I think Gabriela mentioned, you know, gave you a hint on that one. I have a very simple outline. I want to provide a background first about the IEEE, IEEE Standard Association, and finally IEEE Communications Society. These are very few slides about the provide background information. Then I'll talk about the IEEE-wide standard activities, and in particular IEEE SA, because all standard activities in IEEE, you know, regardless of what part of IEEE, what part of society the standard is developed, all these standardization activities must be handled within IEEE SA rules and regulations. This is based on IEEE policies and bylaws. So then I will briefly talk about how the standards are developed and IEEE in IEEE. Then I will focus on standardization activities in ComSoc. I will emphasize on how emerging technologies are standardized, especially within ComSoc. So then I'll end up with a few concluding remarks. Next slide, please. So let's tackle the first item on the agenda. Let's start with IEEE. Some numbers here: the world's largest technical professional organization, 500,000 members in more than 160 countries. There are about maybe 50 societies and councils under IEEE umbrella. Generate more than 5 million documents in our library, and there are 15,000 million monthly downloads, about 2,000 conferences every year, annually, in all over the world. Next slide, please. So if we look at this organizational structure of IEEE, there are a few what we call organizational units. There is a technical activities part that you see on the left. All the societies, including my society, Communications Society, Computer Society, Power and Energy, there are about maybe 50 of them, are under the Technical Activities Board. There are publications, all the publications, the journals and magazines and other publications are under the Publications Organizational Unit. And yes, the standards activities under the IEEE SA, Standard Association. And there are others, conferences, member and geographic activities, and so on. So this is overall structure of IEEE. So you can see where the Standard Association and Communication Society sit in this high-level pictures. So next slide, please. So let's introduce IEEE SA. So first, let's take a quick look at how SA is organized. There is a board of governors of the SA, and everything else reports to the board of governors. There are basically three areas that report to board of governors. One is a standards board. Standard boards is where the standard development activities take place. And there are several committees under standard boards that are responsible for different aspects of the standards development. For example, the NESCOM in the middle here, New Standards Committee. NESCOM is responsible for approving new standard projects, monitoring new standard projects, and also discontinuing standard projects. That's their main responsibility. And the last one, Standards Review Committee here, is responsible for once the project is completed, meaning that they generate a draft, the draft is approved, accepted worldwide through going through worldwide balloting process. The Standards Review Committee has a final word to say it's okay to publish. So once you get approval of the Standards Review Committee, REVCOM, the standard can be published. And there are other committees like Audit Committee, which is responsible for approving the policies and procedures of each working group where the projects take place. And Patent Committee, for example, is responsible for, as the name implies, the patent developing and monitoring IEEE patent policies and so on. Next slide, please. So just a few more facts about IEEE SA. IEEE SA is an international global standard development organization, basically providing a standardization environment for the IEEE 500,000 strong IEEE members, basically to serve the needs of its member. So you can interpret that way. Because it's a part of the IEEE, so that means that draws on this expertise and the knowledge of this large number of members in IEEE. The focus, the SA focuses on developing consensus-based and technical, the sustainable standards. And so actual standard works that take place in the societies, under the societies, but IEEE SA offers a standard development platform to help the societies to develop standard works. Next slide, please. So these are some numbers. Currently, there are more than 1,000 active IEEE standards in place today, and there are 900 plus projects currently in development. And there are also some open source standard activities. Currently, we have about 50 of them. IEEE SA has its own membership. So there are two categories of membership in IEEE SA. One is called individual members. So regardless of whether that individual belongs to a company or not, so there is a membership fee for that. It's a small amount, actually $50 or something like that. And there is a entity membership. Companies and organizations would like to participate in IEEE SA as a entity member. Then there are about 500 of them right now. And of course, there is a very large, considerably large amount of membership fee for the entities. So I'll explain these things a little bit later because these things whether it's an entity or individual member, plays a big role in the development of standards as well. Next slide, please. So let's come to the IEEE ComSoc, Communications Society. It's a society under IEEE focusing on all communication and networking technologies, of course. There are about 30,000 members of ComSoc, and these are engineers, educators, researchers, etc. And it's all international. Our membership are all over the world, about maybe 150 countries all around. The field of interest of ComSoc includes emerging technologies such as AI, 5G, 6G, quantum communications, and etc. And society itself holds about 40 conferences, international conferences, produces top-ranked publications in its area, the communications networking area. These include journals, magazines, newsletters, and etc. And they also offer all kinds of education classes, training classes, and certification programs, and so on. Next, please. So this is the structure of Communication Society, shown in the yellow colors here. I think it's yellow. It's more or less reflects the overall structure of the IEEE. Yes, there is a technical activities area, which there are all kinds of technical committees on each of technical areas like optics, fiber optics, and satellites, and mobile communication, and etc. And there is a publication activities responsible for IEEE Communications Society sponsored publications. And yes, there is a standardization activities. And there are two boards that is part of the standardization activities. One is called the Standards Development Board, which is responsible mainly for governance of the standard projects. And the other board, the Standardization Program Development Board, is mainly responsible for everything else as far as the standardization is concerned, like pre-standardization, post-standardization activities, and so on. And we do have also conference activities area and membership area as well. Next slide, please. So now I will focus on how the standards are developed within IEEE. Then in the next item, I will talk about how it is done in ComSoc, right? The reason I want to talk about this IEEE-wide activities because all standard activities in IEEE, regardless of the society, regardless of where they are developed, must be handled by within the IEEE SA rules and regulations. So as I mentioned, this is by IEEE laws, bylaws. Next slide, please. Thank you. No, go back. Go. Thank you. So standards development IEEE is based on 5 guiding principles. This is very important because some of these things differ from how the other STOs operate. So first of all, the consensus. All decisions in IEEE projects, the standard development projects, are made with a majority or supermajority votes, after, of course, considering all viewpoints. So this is very important, the majority rules, right? Due process. All activities, standardization activities I'm talking about, are based on policies and procedures which are approved by SA with legal reviews. So transparency, equitable, and no domination in this area are the keywords in this area, in the due process. Openness. All activities are open to all. Anybody can participate in IEEE standardization activities. You don't even have to be a member of IEEE. So I'll talk about this one a little later. But the point is there is no discrimination. Anybody, any organization in the world can participate. Right of appeal. There is a clear mechanism outlined in the PMPs to appeal decisions made during the deliberations of standard development. So there is a clear mechanism how you can do that. And there is a balance, the balance of technical expertise in working groups, in projects development, the balance of stakeholders in this development, as well as when there is a worldwide ballot is taking place, make sure that responders establish a balance of stakeholders. In other words, no such areas like, professors or, some companies take dominance in terms of providing responses. See, bottom figure, I'm not, go back, please. The bottom figure here is basically shows the flows, how the standards are developed. There are so much details, but I'm just going to basically summarize by saying that when you have an idea, you end up in creating what we call a PAR, project authorization request. You have to get that one approved by the IEEE. Once that's approved, you have to form a working group and you start putting together the text, the draft for the standard. That may take about maybe, average 3 years. Then you go through the IEEE balloting process. This is a worldwide balloting. In other words, you open up your document to the world and they provide comments and you are responsible for resolving all those comments. Not that you accept all those comments, but somehow you have to respond how you handle, how you dispose that comment. Then once that is finalized, then you're ready to publish the document. Once the document is published, that document, that standard, has 10 years to stay as active. During the 10 years or after 10 years, the working group or interest parties can do some work to enhance, to fine-tune based on the feedback from the industry, from the use of that standard. So if they want to do that, they have to go back, prepare a new PAR, and start the process again. That's how it works. Next slide, please. So speaking of PAR, what is this PAR all about, right? This is basically a very short document, typically 1 page. So you enter this document through a software tool that IEEE provides. It's called My Projects. And so this document needs to be approved by the IEEE SA Committee, NESCOM. There are some other little details there, but there are 3 major parts. One is the scope. You need to describe what you're going to cover in the standard document. And the second part is you need to explain, again, very short paragraph, what this document will be used for, what the standard will be used for. And finally, you have to explain, again, in a very short paragraph, why is it needed? Why is the standard needed? So, and as I said, you need to enter this one through a software tool called My Project. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, there are 2 types of membership in IEEE. One is individual, the other one entity. So therefore, the projects are classified whether it's a individual method project or entity method project. Let me just talk about individual first of all. Individual projects require no membership at all. Anybody, you don't need to be a member of IEEE. However, if you are an officer of that project, of that working group, like you are the chair, vice chair, or secretary, or treasurer, then you have to be a member of IEEE. So the point here that on the individual side, each individual member has 1 vote. 1 member, 1 vote. Okay. there are some rules that you have to follow. For example, you have to keep up a voting membership status by attending, 2 consecutive meetings. If you stop attending, obviously your voting rights will be gone, but you can still continue attending the meetings without the voting rights, right? And so also during the balloting process, this is the global balloting process. This invitation are sent to the whole world, and anyone can sign up for this one. So if you're an SA member already, you don't need to pay any fee. However, if you are not an SA member, in order to access this draft that you're going to provide comment, you have to pay a fee for that one for non-members. So individual, one person, one vote. On the other side, there is an entity method. This is basically designed to expedite the consensus because you can, in this entity method projects, only entities can participate. So therefore, there are relatively less number of members in this project. So it is designed such that consensus can be reached, although not always true easily. But requires corporate membership, and that corporate membership based on the annual revenues of that corporation. For institution or not-for-profit institution, universities also can become a member. There is a slightly relative lower fee for those. So the range goes from, let's say, $500 to $10,000 or so on. So the point here is that when the voting takes place, one entity, one vote. It's not an individual vote anymore. However, each entity designates some person as a representative, and that person votes for that entity. But one entity, one vote. Also, during the sponsor ballot, worldwide sponsor ballot, only entities can sign up to respond to these draft documents. So with that, let's go to the next slide. So there are 4 types of standards. Although we talk about standard documents, actually there are 4 types. One is called standards. So this is a little funny, but the standard documents. Another one is called recommended practice. Another one called the guides. Another one called trial use documents. They differ in languages. For example, the standard documents use the word shall. This shall be done this way, this shall be done that way, and so on. The recommended practices use the word should, you should do this, this should be done this way, and so on. And the guidelines, basically, provide some alternative ways of doing things. And the language over there contains the word may. You may do it this way, or you may do it that way. There is also this trial use documents. These are typically for only 3 years. This is basically used to allow a draft standard to be published and tested by a wider audience for a limited time, up to 2 years perhaps, before being considered for adoption as a full use standard, which has 10 years lifetime. Next standard. Next slide, please. So I'm going to skip these things, but basically, let me say that once your PAR is approved, you establish a working groups, and there are specific rules and policies how the working group operates, right? Depending on whether the working group is an individual working group or entity working group. There are rules who can participate, and there are rules how the working groups are governed, what the chair is going to do, and so on. So let's go to the next slide, please. In the interest of time, I'll skip these things. And there are also all kinds of support provided by IEEE to help the working groups to carry out their work. There are all kinds of electronic tools, all kinds of guidelines in terms of what you do when you're ready to publish documents. there is a IEEE staff assigned to each working group, each project as a called program manager, and that program manager is always ready and willing to help the working groups to carry out its work. And there are a number of others. And also here, I should mention that there is also an open source development platform. I mentioned this one already. Next slide, please. Just let me say a few words on this open source. So IEEE also provides a platform for interested parties to develop open source software. So this is kind of a little different than the standards development. It is called IEEE SA Open, and there are, like, we use a GitLab with additional tools like Mattermost and Pages, which are made available to the communities formed under IEEE open source umbrella. You see some of the functions here under core functionality includes like project planning and management, source code management, testings, and et cetera, et cetera. Next slide, please. So I feel obliged to say a few words about the patent policy as well. So this patent policy is important for IEEE SA, like any other STO is also important, of course. Here, the major objective is not to rule, regulate, and make decision, etc., for the patent issues, but basically, IEEE's objective is to develop standards that can be implemented without any hindrance, right? For this, IEEE provides rules and processes to seek information from the participants. Participants actually have a duty to inform the IEEE whether they hold a patent or they hold intellectual property or they are aware of someone in the working group is holding a patent on that. So the IEEE seek information, and this information is made available to patent holders, so patent holders are invited to respond, but they are not required, right? A holder of a patent claim may accept the awareness of the claim, saying that, yes, I am aware, I am the holder of this, or may deny, no, I'm not, or they don't respond at all. So as you can see, IEEE is not responsible forcing anybody to whether to have or not. That's up to the individual companies, entities. So IEEE is not responsible for identifying the claims. IEEE is not responsible for determining the validity, determining the terms of conditions, or IEEE is not responsible for determining whether an implementation is a compliant implementation. All these are based on the agreement between the implementers and the claimant, patent claim entity or person. Next slide, please. So with that, we're running out of time, I guess, but let me just say a few words about the how ComSoc is involved standard activities. So the thing is that, excuse me, when a PAR is approved by IEEE, one of the conditions is that the PAR proposers must have a society supporting that PAR. So once you have a PAR, once you have a PAR, you have to shop for a sponsor, right? ComSoc is one of them, and Computer Society is another one, and so on. For example, IEEE 802 standards, 802.3 or 802.11, etc. They are sponsored, they are supported by the IEEE Computer Society, not Communications Society. But we do have a lot of standards also in ComSoc. I'll explain what we have. So as I mentioned before, ComSoc standardization activities are taken care of by two boards. One is the Standard Development Board, ComSDB, which I chair currently. And the other one is called the Standardization Program Development Board, SPDB. On the left, you have the ComSDB, mainly involved in the governance of the standards, standard development projects, including the initiation and the development of that projects. It provides an oversight functions on those projects as they proceed. SPDB on the right side is mostly involved in pre-standardization and post-standardization activities, which include, publicity, publications, conferences, engagement with the industry, engagement with the industry alliances and consortia, and they are also put together research project leading into new standards. So I will talk about ComSDB first. Next slide, please. On the left side, you see the roster. We have officers, voting members, non-voting members, and professional staff supporting the board. Obviously, I'm not going to go through all those things. So the voting members, but basically are the chairs of standard committees and working groups reporting to board directly. So that brings us the question how the ComSDB is structured. Under ComSDB, if you look at on the right side, under ComSDB, there are 9 standard committees. These standard committees are official names, official IEEE nomenclature, and each standard committee has, on the average, about 10 working groups. So we have about currently more than 100 working groups, and each working group may have one or more projects underneath. So if you look at the list in the blue, those are the name of standard committees. Their areas, access core, UAV, dynamic spectrum allocation, edge cloud, green ICT, wireless mobile, NetSoft, power line communications, and so on. Next slide, please. So this is a list of some sample of active published standards from each standard committee. So again, these slides will be available to you, I guess, if they're recording, so I'm not going to go through in the interest of time again. So continuing with the next slide here, again, some other, and this one, these are the sample of active standardization projects. So currently these projects are not finalized. Working groups are working on to finalizing these things. So just to give you, for example, there is a standard for measuring electroacoustic performance and communication devices. Just to pick another one under power line communication, like a standard for medium frequency power line communication with hybrid PLC radio frequency physical layer. So in all aspects of communications, we have these standards almost, well, maybe I should give another example here. This is the standard committee I also chair, the standard for artificial intelligence-based network applications in 5G and beyond mobile networks. Again, these are available in your recording, so please take a look at them. And if you are interested, of course, you can contact me or appropriate standard committee chair to get involved in those. So the other board under ComSoc is called SPDB. As I said before, they are responsible for pre and post standardization activities. They can also establish research groups. And next slide, please. So these are the graphical way of saying what I just said. There are all kinds of areas, but I just want to mention a few of them, actually, 3 of them. So there is a conference that we sponsor, IEEE Conference on Standards for Communications and Networking. This is an annual conference typically held in various European countries. This is the URL here. You can see for this year's event, I think it's already took place. There is a magazine, there is a journal that we also publish called IEEE Communications Standard Magazine. It's a online electronic journal, and it's published quarterly. And this is the, you see the URL over there. If you are interested, please, and you can visit the site and consider submitting papers. And there is also this RRSA, Rapid Reaction Standards Activity. So I will talk about this one later because this is important for standardizing emerging technologies. Next slide, please. So we go to next area, which is standardizing emerging technologies. So the problem here in standardizing of emerging technology is that the entropy in industry dynamics is getting higher and higher. The industry feels pressure to introduce new products in less time, and industry is becoming impatient with the current pace of standards development. A common criticism is that formal standard setting processes are too slow, sometimes too political, and they do not necessarily choose the best technology in a timely manner to respond to the rapid changes in the marketplace. So therefore, in the face of fast changing industry dynamics that we talk about, and rapidly changing technology evolution also demands new approaches. So, for example, the new increase, we need to have an increased emphasis on market-driven and market-relevant standards, of course. However, we also need to focus on market-driving, market-disrupting standards. Standardizing emerging technologies in early phases of the technology evolution is important. In order to do that, we need to make this area attractive to academics and researchers. We want to get them involved in standardization. And also, we need to consider open source development as a rapid response to facilitate standardization. Of course, we shouldn't forget ethical consideration in technology standardization, especially in early phases of, as you see, a lot of concerns about ethical aspect of AI based solutions. So in IEEE, especially in ComSoc, we have a few tricks in our bag to address these concerns. Let's first go through the technology evolution and discuss when and where we can start developing standard for emerging technologies. So emerging technologies obviously go through some phases from conceptual to all the way to deployment. And there are standardization issues in every phase. During conceptual phase, the intellectual property is typically created first by academics and industrial research laboratories. And they are disclosed publicly in the form of workshops and the conference papers, and later maybe scholarly publications and maybe patents and so on. Next slide, please. So the strength of intellectual property manifests itself in strong and broad patent claims early on in the conceptual phase, as well as conference and journal publications, as I mentioned before. And these early journal publications and conference proceedings draws a very high number of citation and high quality citation. However, the strength of intellectual property diminishes with time as technology goes through evolution phases and goes down to almost zero in deployment. So it is often hard to predict what's going to happen, but some early emerging technologies make it, some don't. So some are very market relevant, some not. So as you can see in this here slide here, the market relevance almost zero at the beginning, but it picks up when the technology survives going through competitive and deployment phases. Next slide, please. So this figure basically illustrates how IEEE products are mapped to technology evolution timeline. In early phases, conceptual and pre-competitive phases, most of the expertise obviously resides in the research labs and academics organizations. And interesting that these individuals in these early phases have typically little or no material interest in the technologies. They have what we call professed interest, no material interest. Driving research to standards, thus creating standards in emerging technology, is important and can be effectively done by bringing researchers to the standardization process. So that's what we try to do in ComSoc. So this can only be accomplished by creating a ecosystem for researchers. So this ecosystem may include like standard-related conferences, standard-related publications, and rewards for researchers for publications in standard activities, awards for best standard contribution, and so on. And furthermore, perhaps allow for discoverable and citable authored standards contributions. IEEE, for example, has IEEE as a contributor collection. So it tries to capture these contributions so that it can be cited in, the individuals' CVs or whatever. So also for the research to standards handoff, which take place during the between the pre-competitive and competitive phase, during this handoff, a specific methodology such as RSA is needed to bring together the research community and industry stakeholders in a focused focused workshop or meeting to create standard based on the research. Next slide, please. So that brings us this RSA, as I mentioned before, rapid reaction to standardization, rapid reaction standardization activity. This is an example of methodology for the discovery of standardization opportunities in emerging technologies, as I mentioned before, and creation of standards based on this RSA. So again, objective is to identify a proposal for IEEE standardization for a given target emerging technology. Participants is not open to everyone in this methodology that we develop in ComSoc. It's not open to, it's invitation only. However, even invitation only, we send invitation, we ask a position statements, and then we select the numbers that are more suitable, and we invite them. And we put together a one-day working meeting. So it's a kind of brainstorming of these ideas. And it's similar to Delphi technique in coming up with decisions, if you will. Funding is required for these because, as I said before, most of these researchers, especially from academics, do not have material interest in standardization. They have mainly professed interest, so they need funding for their travel support. So the way it works is, identify immediate and future standardization opportunities for further investigation, identify the stakeholders and invite them, bring them to RSA session and go through the process. So during the process, next slide, please. During the process, if there is an item that seems to be attractive, to go through the RSA session and identify that item and decide whether item is ready for put into a PAR proposal. If the answer is yes, go work on the PAR proposal and submit it to IEEE. If the answer is no, it's not ready for prime time yet, so establish a research group. So the purpose of the research group, investigate this in more detail, maybe in a few months or few weeks or whatever, then and go back to RSA sessions, start the cycle again. However, if this item that identified in the RSA session is not ready for proposal, but with a few tweaks here and there, it could be made PAR. So establish a study group under a standard committee and give them like 3 months or so. So they work on it, they fine tune the proposal, and they generate a PAR. So this is the process for, next slide, please. This ecosystem that I mentioned, we use in IEEE. Actually, there are several areas that we need to be part of this. It need to be part of this ecosystem. Of course, there is a standard association with all platforms and facilities and other tools. And there is the IEEE technical activities with the societies and the fellowship, for example, and other awards and other events. They are part of this ecosystem. And also at the bottom here, you see industry and academia consortia are also important. These are some examples that we in the past worked together. For example, Green Touch Alliance, ORAN, PLC consortia, and so on. Of course, on the right side, there is an IEEE Future Directions Committee, which has a number of emerging technology initiatives. So these initiatives are also fertile ground for standardization activities. Anyway, so let's go to the next one, please. So as I said, I'll end up my talk with concluding remarks. Next slide. There is no question that the government, industry, research, and consumers need standards. IEEE is a major global player in the world of standards through IEEE, and IEEE ComSoc is one of the major societies in IEEE standardization activities. And finally, let me finish my talk with saying that standardization of emerging technologies, especially in the early stages of their evolution, is very, very important and requires participation, contribution from the research community. So I'll end up my talk. I think we have only 5 or 10 minutes. However, I'll be around if anybody has questions. The next slide shows some helpful information. I want to thank you for your patience, for listening to me. So I don't know, I don't see the Q&A box. I think I need Gabriella's help in helping me on that if there are any questions.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Mehmet. So that was very insightful presentation. I think we have actually a question. Let me grab them from the doc. So actually, there is a question on how is the instrument of POC project supported in IEEE? The question about the proof of concept. SEOs are now enabling activities of POC projects, so created to support an ongoing standardization activity or standards, so that implementation experience through a POC can help provide feedback to the standardization committee to detect and close gaps in the standards. So as I said, the question was, how is this instrument supported in IEEE?
So that's a very good question. Thank you for that. Yeah, the POCs can be implemented in many different ways in IEEE standardization activities. First of all, people under the pre-standardization or post-standardization in ComSoc, there is a board that I mentioned, SPDB, may put together a group to work on a POC for a certain technologies. In addition to that, once a working group is formed, working group may decide, first of all, a working group has a 4-year time span. So in that time frame, they may decide to work on the POC before they start writing the draft for the standards. So that's also possible. And also after the standard is developed, the same working group can continue their activities as a industry connection committee, ICCOM in IEEE, to put together a POC for that standards as well. So there are many ways of doing it in IEEE in that regard. So I think there were some questions that was sent to me. Do you want to go through those, or I think I answered those questions in my talk?
So I see another question.
Oh, you do?
Yes. So from which regions in the world were the most of the researchers, academic and industry, come from for the RRSI process, if you have this information?
Yeah, that's a good question also. So we don't have a specific region. In our past experience, we had invitees from all over the world. And sometimes we hold these RSA in a specific region. For example, we did once in, I believe, in Finland. We did once in Berlin, in Seattle, and we did one in Beijing, Shanghai. So we did a number of places around the world. So it's not specific to certain region.
Okay, thank you. And can we retrieve those information on your website, or is this information somehow accessible?
Well, this, as I said, these information, I mean, these these participants are invitation only, but you can find more information on RSA in our ComSTB as well as SPDB sites. And I provide a helpful links at the end of my talk. I think some of them provide that information as well.
Okay, thank you very much. There is another question coming. Is there collaboration with ISO committee on IoT, free IT, etc. ongoing?
Yes, the IEEE has a joint project with ISO, and a collaboration with ITU and other STOs as well. But more specifically, there's a joint technical committee with ISO and IEEE that they collaborate. Sometimes they adopt standards from one and another, and that kind of relationship also part of our ecosystem.
Anna, you can ask your question.
Yes, yeah.
It
was just a typo. It's green IT, not free IT. Sorry.
Okay, no worries. Thank you. I'm not sure we are running out of time, but if you have another questions that you want to answer, Mehmet, I do not see another in the Q&A box, but I can only say that we will share the recording from this webinar on the event webpage, and the slides will be made available as well.
Okay, maybe maybe within a couple of minutes, I go through some of the questions that VP asked. For example, are there any fees to be paid to IEEE, or is there any support from IEEE for the work group or standardization effort, whom to ask. So I think I try to explain these things. First of all, most working group meetings these days, especially held online virtually. However, some working groups meet in person, perhaps together with with another event like conferences and so on. So there is no fee to participate in the working group. Unless there is an in-person meeting, the working group may decide to impose a small amount of fee to take care of some local arrangements like a venue or food, or for example. So whom to ask? I think you can ask me. You can go to IEEE website, IEEE ComSoc website to get the information where each working group has a website basically, so you can access those websites and you can learn how the website working group operates. So what support system IEEE SA has to make a new standard? I think I went through those in my slides. You can find the answer to that. How to get a standard project started, approved if there are patents already available? Will they be excluded? I think I also explained that one in my slide, IEEE patent policy. No patent will be excluded. It's just that you have a choice to make it available to the participants that you have a patent, or it's up to you. So IEEE doesn't get involved in determining whether there is a patent. It encourages the participants to let the working group know that there is a patent somewhere, either patent owned by that person or entity or owned by somebody else. So they have a responsibility to make that claim. So it's up to the patent holder to accept that claim or reject that claim. And how is it resolved at the end? So that's not IEEE's responsibility. So is it necessary for members to meet physically? The answer is no. As I said before, meetings can be done virtually, in person, or hybrid. So those are the questions that I received offline, by the way. Okay. So I'm done, right?
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you everyone for being with us today, and a very special thank you to Professor Mehmet Ulema. And as I said, the recording and the materials from today's session will be shared on the project website. And on behalf of the INSTAR team, we wish you a wonderful rest of the day, and thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.